Good morning, everyone. Another Friday morning for our Connect and Shares at 10 o'clock on the 64th episode. And you're here with Outdoors New South Wales and ACT. My name's Laurie Mode, for those that don't know me. I'm the CEO of Outdoors. We also have Leslie, who is my right arm when it comes to anything outdoors, and your marketing officer. So we will jump in today. We've got a lot on the agenda to share with you today. But first, may I pay my respects to our partners in the land and our Aboriginal folk, both past, present, and also the emerging leaders of the communities, so that we can work to understand more about their interpretation of the land, and we appreciate the past that has been, so that we can make the future even brighter. So let me jump into some of the things that we need to know. As I look at Rob's beautiful bird on his shoulder, it's gorgeous. And let me introduce you to the precursor, which I'm sure if you've caught us up in the last couple of episodes, you'd know a little bit about this, but this is the pre-entry opportunity for the National Outdoor Education Conference, which will take place in Lura next year. But this year, we're going to hold an online, a succinct version with some great topics and some great speakers on the 29th of September. So if you have a ticket for the 2022 event and you have paid before the 25th of July, you will get access to this event at no extra cost. If you haven't booked for that, don't stress. You can certainly book your ticket for this event for the grand price total of $30. So jump online and book your ticket, and you'll hear from a beautiful range of speakers, including Shane Fitzsimmons, the head of Resilience New South Wales, and some great minds in our space, including Pasi Salberg and, of course, Professor Tony Gray. So jump online, book your tickets for the 29th of September. Okay, COVID, where are we up to? Where have we got with our support programs? And I think we need to just give a quick update on where the figures are. And certainly in New South Wales, you've still got the access to the cash grant of 15,000. You've also now got that access with ACT operators to get up to 15,000, depending on your circumstances. Yesterday, there was an extension of the JobSaver for large businesses. So now some of the larger businesses up to $1 billion turnover can now apply for the JobSaver. Now, we still remain as the only state, New South Wales, that has the access to a JobSaver scheme. And certainly for that, I'm sure you are all thankful. What I'm hearing with a lot of the businesses is they're starting to get their funds. So if you're having troubles, please reach out and we can certainly help you try to navigate that. But it certainly sounds like the money is rolling out there, which is great news. For the VIC members, we've still got the Alpine Support Program, the Small Business Program, and I think they're reworking another program which is imminent from what I hear. Federal support grants, the wage support is still there for all of the staff that have lost hours. So remembering that to work with your staff in that stand down opportunity, that they can get that access to the federal money and support their income on a weekly basis. As at 11 o'clock today, we'll hear about the plans by the New South Wales government on return to school. So that will give us a really good understanding of some sort of scalability, I suppose, in getting kids back to the classroom and hopefully back to their outdoor education. So I look forward to probably updating you via the monthly newsletter, which will come out today with that announcement that will take place by the Premier at 11. So what we need to do now, we went through this last week, but I just wanted to touch on this because it's continually important that we abide by the rules and the conditions in which we have to live right now, and that we're seen to be leading by example. So if you are doing anything in your social media or in your marketing where you are showing that your organisation or you as people are doing the right thing, please let us know and tag us in that so we can amplify that message and show that the outdoor industry is leading in this space. On the business grants, don't forget to reach out if you're having trouble, but also the action part is around your staff, making sure you're connecting with each one of your staff and supporting them where support is needed, remembering that you also need support as business owners and managers, and look at your own mental health and reach out if you need that support. But that last part about strategy, as of next week, we are starting our business owners and business managers strategy sessions. this is a great time to sit down with one another and sort of be support mechanisms for each other as we start working out what the new normal is going to be. What have we got to consider coming out of this, the releasing of restrictions and getting back to business? It is going to look a little bit different. So what have we got to start thinking about? Let's put our minds together and start pathing our way for the future. So if you want to be part of that, you need to let me know. Send me an email and we'll get you onto that list. Reminder about the AGM, but the biggest reminder is board position openings close today. So if you are interested in submitting to be considered to join the board of directors for Outdoors New South Wales and ACT, that closes today. The uploads, just another reminder that the uploads report from July is now available. And again, that'll be in your newsletter as of today. So we have a great session today from sponsored by Reckon, and I'm going to introduce Andrew in a second. The next one's coming up. We've got Careers New South Wales next week. That is going to be a big one because this is the pilot project that Service New South Wales is implementing. And as we come out of this, I think we all know that getting our staff back into the jobs and also filling those vacant positions we already had before lockdown is going to be a struggle. And this is a great program that could help us in this area. And then on the 10th of September, the Training New South Wales, part of the Department of Training as well, is looking at some workforce development opportunities that the outdoor industry can be part of. So we're going to present that on the 10th. We'll also have Harris updating us on some of the Working with Children check items on the 3rd of September as well. So today, though, I'm going to quickly introduce Meg, who's the Assistant Chief Commissioner of Scouts New South Wales, who has some exciting stuff to tell us. So Meg, I'm going to hand over to you now before we run into the Reckon session.
Awesome, thank you. I'll just hopefully share my screen successfully. I'm hoping that everyone can see that.
That's gorgeous.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much, Laurie, and thank you everyone for having me today. I guess I'm very keen to have a bit of a feel-good Friday presentation, I guess. And as Laurie mentioned, I'm the Assistant Chief Commissioner for Youth Engagement for Scouts New South Wales. And basically what that means is that my role entails working with our incredible young people from across the state in every single avenue, but particularly across like youth engagement and empowerment and making sure that our young people know that they can do anything and be anything. And so the reason that I'm here today is to give you all a bit of an idea about what our Scout of the Year Awards are and hopefully offer you an opportunity to get involved as well. So as you can see on the screen, we've successfully had 2 Scout of the Year Awards so far. This was our only in-person one because unfortunately COVID came and ruined everything for everyone. But this was our first year in 2019. And as you can see, basically our Scout of the Year Awards are an award that celebrates how incredible our young people are. We know that we have young people across the state who are going out there, who are making a difference in their community, whether it's through their Scout group or through other avenues, and they're changing the world. And we wanted to harness that and A, showcase it, B, celebrate it, and hopefully inspire everyone, not just our young people, to be change makers and to see just how brilliant our youth members and our next generation of leaders across the state are. So our Scout of the Year Awards are run every year. And basically we have 4 sections. So we get finalists from each section, and then we choose a winner out of each section at our ceremony. And what you can see here is these are all of our finalists from our first year. And so we've got young people who range from 5 to 26 who are making a difference in their community. And it's pretty brilliant. And our Scout of the Year Award is actually run by our State Youth Council as well. So the entire thing is run by people under the age of 25. And it's just an incredible atmosphere and opportunity to show just how brilliant our young people are. So one of the big things about our Scout of the Year Awards is that we basically work towards celebrating how our young people have worked towards the Sustainable Development Goals. So I'm hopeful that some of you will know about the SDGs, and if not, I'll give you a bit of a quick rundown. But basically the Sustainable Development Goals were set up by the United Nations in 2015 to be completed by 2030. So these are a bunch of goals that can be completed by every country around the world to work towards creating a better world. They range from things like zero poverty to no hunger, to good health and well-being, to sustainable cities and communities, to climate action, life below land, life underwater. Pretty much anything that you can think of fits under one of these goals. And so what's so special about these goals is that the idea is that the whole world is working collaboratively towards these goals. And as Scouts worldwide, which I'll talk about a bit later, we've all signed up to work towards these goals. So the Scout of the Year Award is working towards celebrating how young people are creating change through the Sustainable Development Goals. So what I wanted to show you first, I guess, is this idea that often we think about Sustainable Development Goals, or previously they were called the Millennium Goals, and we go, oh, that's something that people, you know, in developing countries need to work towards. It's not necessarily something that affects us. And so to start with, I wanted to give you a bit of a, I guess, snapshot about why the SDGs are so important in an Australian context, and also just how brilliant our scouting across the state and across the world are towards working towards these goals. So I've put together some kind of, they're not fun facts, they're shocking and sad facts that kind of show just how important these SDGs are in our own context. So one of the goals is no poverty. And unfortunately, on any given night in Australia, almost 28,000 young people aged 12 to 24 years are homeless. This isn't a stat from overseas, this is a stat from right here. And it shows just how important working towards this goal is within Australia. In a similar way, almost a third of Australians experiencing food insecurity in 2020 had never experienced it before COVID. So we're in this unprecedented change, and everyone is dealing with COVID in different ways, but it's obviously also brought up all of these other things that we need to be working towards with the goals. And in a way, it's been a bit of a kick in the gut, I guess, and a reason to be motivated to creating change and to celebrating our young people. Another is that Australia's national gender pay gap is 13.4%. So we've got a lot of work to do in the gender equality field, and I'm sure in the outdoor field, it's just the same in that area as well. And number 12 is Australia is wasting almost 300 kilograms of food per person. And so we're actually the world's 4th highest food waster per capita. But the great thing about some of these goals is that sometimes the solution to one is also a solution to another. And so that's what our young people see. They have a brilliant ability to kind of see all of these issues and link them together. Like, for instance, working out ways to utilize all of this food that we're wasting and feed our hungry. And so it's a pretty awesome opportunity for our young people to create change. And then this is potentially the last one. And basically, I'm sure you've all heard this fact, by 2050, more plastic will be in the ocean than fish. And I guess I often do a presentation like this to our Scouts across the state. And something that is always brought up is like, 2050, they're only going to be like 40 years old. So 2050 isn't that far away for them. They want to think about what's going to happen in 2080, 2090. And so it shows just how important it is to have these young people as pivotal leaders in working towards these SDGs. And the last one, which I'm sure everyone knows about, is that nearly 3 billion animals were killed or displaced during our devastating bushfires. And it shows just how important it is for us to be working towards life on land as well. So that's a bit of a snapshot about why the SDGs are so important. The next thing that I want to ask you, I'm not sure if I'll be able to see the chat, but basically there's 193 member nations across the world, and all of these nations have come together to sign up to the Sustainable Development Goals. I want to ask you where you think Australia fits in terms of our work towards the goals so far. So one being the best work towards the goals around the world, and 190, I think 95 is what I said, is the worst towards the goals. So chuck in the chat where you think Australia would be fitting. One, that's pretty optimistic. Almost last. Yeah, we always get kind of people at both ends of the spectrum. Awesome. And if we don't think Australia came first, which country do you think would be working towards the goals the most successfully? Who do you think is sitting in number 1 position? Take a random guess. I had no idea until I read the report. Norway, so we've got some Scandinavian countries. New Zealand, yep, that makes sense as well. Switzerland, yeah, Europe's generally up there. Japan. Okay, cool. So we're going to find out. So country number 1 is Finland. So we've got Scandinavia, and then we've got country number 2 is Sweden. Country number 3 is Denmark. Then we've got the UK is sitting at 17. We've got Japan at 18. So I know we had Japan up there as well. So it's pretty high. And then we've got Canada's 21, New Zealand's 23. So that's still pretty up there. Chile is 30. The US is 32. And then we're sitting at 35. So 35 doesn't sound that bad when you're talking about 193 member nations, but the fact that this is what really annoys me, the fact that the US is sitting at 32 and we're at 35 shows just how much work we have to do towards the goals, and just how incredibly important it is to be celebrating how our young people are working towards those goals. So thank you all for playing our guessing game. So the next thing that I wanted to show you is basically how we've been going towards the goals. So this is a bit of the goals at the top are how we've been going so far. So green means we've been going quite well. Red means we've had no action, which I'm sure won't shock you in terms of climate action being a red one up there. And then the yellow is we're going all right. And the orange is we haven't really made much of an impact towards these goals as a country. And then these arrows are the prediction for the next year. So this report only just came out. So it's our prediction for the next year. And as you can see, we're going all right. We're hopefully going to go all right with the good health and well-being, gender equality, decent work and economic growth, which probably won't shock many of you. But you can also see we've got a lot of work to do, especially in the environmental field, which I'm sure is a passion area for a lot of you on this call as well. So it shows just how important it is to be working towards these goals. So I'm now just going to show you a quick video that talks about how Scouting worldwide is uniting towards these goals. I've hopefully pressed the button that lets audio happen, but let me know if it doesn't.
In 2015, humanity came together with a call to action for a better world by 2030. They agreed on 17 sustainable development goals to end poverty, improve health and education, reduce inequalities, and tackle climate change. It's going to take the entire world to make these goals a reality. And who better to lead the charge than 50 million scouts? You may know us as the ones who give a helping hand to the elderly, keep forests clean, run donation drives, or who are generally just good, active citizens. And have you heard of the Scouts welcoming refugees in Turkey, or leading peace talks in Colombia? Or the ones giving thousands of students access to clean water in South Sudan? We've already completed over 1 billion hours of community service for the SDGs. Whether it's something really big or really small, we can all do something to make these goals a reality. By taking millions of local actions in almost every community, we're making the world's largest youth contribution to the SDGs. We're just trying to make this world a little better every day. We're Scouts for SDGs.
Awesome. So as you can see, Scouts worldwide is the largest youth contribution towards the SDGs in the world, which means that we have a really important part to play, even in New South Wales. So that video was actually made a few years ago. And as of now, we've now done 2 billion hours of work towards the SDGs around the world with 54 million participants and 16 million projects around the world. And basically, you can go online and you can see all of the awesome work that every single country has done towards the SDGs. And it shows just how important it is for us in New South Wales to be looking at how we're working towards the goals. Another awesome thing to quickly point out is that Scouting and Guiding worldwide has been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize for our global contribution towards peace. And a big part of that is our work towards the goals. So then you look at Scouts in Australia. So Scouts in Australia, we've worked towards we spent 247 million hours working towards the SDGs on 482 projects, and our Scout of the Year award projects fit right in here. So within Scouting, we have what we call a personal progression. And so we have badges that are called special interest areas. And it basically gives the opportunity for our young people to be working towards creating a better world, the environment, growth and development, and STEM and innovation. And in all of these ways, our young people can create change. So this is where our Scout of the Year awards come in. Basically, as I said, our Scout of the Year awards are celebrating our brilliant young people from across the state who are working towards the goals, who are making a difference in their community, who are inspiring others. And we utilize it as an opportunity for them to network and for them to start to learn about how they can continue to create change, and also for us to show just how brilliant Scouting is. So I have quickly done a few different snapshots of some of our awesome Scout of the Year awards finalists in the past to give you an idea of what awesome projects that our Scouts have been doing. So this is Penny, and Penny is a Joey. So Joeys are between the ages of 5 and 8. And as a Joey, Penny has family members who have autism and language delays and speech difficulties. So she took the initiative to create what she called PECS communication cards so that she could help other people communicate with her friends and family who have autism and language delays and speech difficulties. As a Joey, she took the initiative and she made a difference in her own community. As a cub, which is aged 8 till 11, Emma busked just after the fires last year and raised $1,600 for the RFS and the Koala Hospital, just as a young girl who wanted to make a difference after she saw so much going wrong with the world. as a cub. So this is Molly, she's from Broken Hill, and she spent hours cutting and sewing bags for the orphan Joey kangaroos in care of people who live around her. And she saw that as an opportunity where she could create change. As a scout, so scouts are 11 to 15-year-olds. This is Holly. Holly collected $10,000 worth of food and personal care items and made 57 Christmas hampers for the homeless. And what we also often see is that it takes these powerhouse young people to create change, but then they rope in other powerhouse young people. And so it becomes this community effort to make a difference in the community. And these young people are getting nothing out of this. Sometimes they get a badge, but often it's just out of the goodness of their heart. And because scouting has given them the leadership opportunities and the passion and the motivation and the empowerment to know that they can create change. Caitlin is a really cool story as well. So she designed 800 COVID-19 themed badges, which you can see here. And she sold the 800 of them till they sold out across the world, and raised $2,500 for her local hospital for the frontline workers in COVID last year. So she's, again, a scout, and I think she's 13. And so we also have Jacinta as a scout. So Jacinta was personally battling cancer, and at the time she personally spoke at several events and hosted enough cupcake stalls to successfully raise over $10,000 for kids with cancer. And she was, again, a scout between the ages of 11 and 15. And then we have Adventurer, which is Amy. So Amy launched a project to improve the mental health of our aging population. She did a really cool thing. She linked up guide dogs, young people, and aged care residences to work towards empowering them and giving good health and well-being for our elderly population as well. And then Luke, he's got such a brilliant story as well. So he's from Cobargo down the coast. And he, during the fires, he not only was I think 16 or 17-year-old fighting fires, spending 100 hours of his Christmas holidays fighting fires, but he regularly checked and called every single member of his scout group to make sure that they had a plan, that they knew where everything was when they had to leave, that they knew what was going on, and that they were safe and well. This is as like a 16 or 17-year-old. We also have rovers. So rovers are 18 to 26. So that's me with this red uniform. And Henry is an example of a rover who created a partnership between Rovers New South Wales and Red Cross to organise blood drives across the state and save lives that way as well. So this is not an exclusive list of all of our young people who have created change. These are just some of our finalists. And it shows just how brilliant our young people really are. So I know I'm running out of time, but I just quickly wanted to show what last year's Scout of the Year Awards looked like. So obviously it was online, but it actually ended up being so much better because we had the opportunity, we told all of our finalists to decorate their halls. We had cakes that were made. We had all the family members coming along, and it was a massive deal. And this is Luke, who was the firefighter that I mentioned before, who had the entire firefighting crew and all of his scouts and the big truck in the background with the lights going on. And everyone had the amazing opportunity to celebrate how brilliant all of our young people were, and they had communities rallying behind them. So the last thing that I wanted to show you before I wrap up is a really short video that will hopefully give you an idea of why it's so important to be working towards the Scout of the Year Awards and what our young people get out of being finalists.
I loved being a Scout of the Year finalist because I got to learn and see other people in New South Wales Scouts doing their projects.
I had heaps of people supporting me and I felt very proud of myself.
Seeing other inspiring youth member stories and their projects.
Knowing that my project has been recognised within the Scouting community has felt amazing, as I have put so much work and time into organising it.
Because it just made me happy that what I did influenced people and cheered some people up.
Because I was proud of myself and happy that my leaders thought of me and nominated me.
Connections that I made with other like-minded Scouts in the State Youth Council.
Opportunity to show what I was doing, see what other people from Ventures were doing around the state, and to create new friends.
Opportunity to be surrounded by young people, championing change in their own communities and celebrating just how awesome Scouts can be.
So in summary, basically, I hope that you've had a bit of a feel-good Friday moment, I guess, and seen how brilliant our young people are. And the reason that Laurie invited me along today is because we are having our 2021 Scout of the Year Awards come at the end of the year. And we are on the lookout for some brilliant sponsors to hopefully give some amazing prizes to our young people who end up as our winners. We're really lucky to already have Paddle and Portage Canoes and Osprey on board as of just recently. And so we're hoping to get some really nice packs like we had when we were in person like this to give to our young people so that they feel just as special as they really are, and so that they understand just how brilliant they are. So I'll put my my email address and the website for the Scout of the Year Award in the chat. And I know I've run out of time, so if you have any questions, chuck them in the chat and I'm more than happy, I'll respond to them for you. But I would love to hear from any of you if you have any questions or if you have any interest in sponsoring the event, because it's a brilliant opportunity for us to celebrate you supporting us and also to celebrate the incredible power of our young people across the state. So thanks so much for listening.
Meg. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm glad we recorded this, because in 20, 30 years time, who knows, I think all those people will be sitting in the seats of Parliament. And we can say, we knew them when they were a Scout. Such great stuff. Thank you so much for being with us, and feel free to hang about. If people have got questions later, feel free. But I'm going to hand over to Andrew, because we've got another great topic to talk about. Yeah, Andrew, over to you. I'm going to let you introduce Reckon to everyone.
Thank you so much, Laurie. I'll just double check if you can hear me there, because I was just having a few connection issues with my headset, but it seems like it's all sorted now by unplugging it and plugging it back in again. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen and we'll just double check if that works. So just bear with me one tick and we'll get going. And
there we go.
I'll just get a shout out. If you could see my first slide there, it should just say something along the lines of be prepared, single touch payroll phase 2.
Great, perfect.
The one you could see, awesome. And I'll just pop that over there. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Laurie. Also, it's an absolute pleasure to be here this morning and the opportunity to talk with everyone. As Laurie mentioned, my name's Andrew. I'm one of the partner managers here at Reckon. And just bear with me. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about single touch payroll. I'm sure a lot of you have probably heard a little bit of talk around single touch payroll, whether it's from the ATO, whether it's from your bookkeeper or your accountant, but there's a fair bit of discussion around that leading up to next year's changes, which is single touch payroll phase 2. We're going to be talking a little bit about that. We're also going to have a look at closely held employees and why there's also a fair bit of chatter around closely held employees. What is a closely held employee? What do you have to do if you employ closely held employees? We might even take, if we've got time, jump into some of the recent superannuation changes as well. As Laurie mentioned, yeah, we will obviously have time for questions. So you don't have to wait till the end of the slides there. Just throw them into the question box, or if you'd like to, just unmute yourself and Susan and I will stop and answer your question and take it from there. So before we jump in, I'll just talk a little bit about who Reckon is, because I'm sure some of you on the call probably haven't heard of us. So Reckon's a tech company HQ'd in Sydney. We've also got offices located in New Zealand, the United Kingdom and the United States. We're a public company listed on the Australian Stock Exchange, and we have around 300 employees and 700,000 businesses worldwide use Reckon products. So here at Reckon, we believe all SMEs should have access to the most affordable and accessible solutions to manage their business. So to achieve that, our mission is to design, develop and distribute obviously the most cost-effective and easy to use ecosystem of business software available. On the other side of the business, we also design and develop APS, which is class-leading practice management software that's used by around 70 of the top 100 accounting firms across Australia and New Zealand and into Southeast Asia. So I'd like to introduce our industry expert, Sue Rickard from Calculation. So Sue brings with her a wealth of software knowledge and accounting experience, and Sue's been a Reckon accredited partner for a little over 21 years, I believe it is now, Sue. And I've had the pleasure of working with Sue at Reckon for around 10 of those years. So Reckon accredited partners such as Sue are accounting industry experts who assist small businesses Australia-wide. So Sue, if I might hand over to you now, and let's jump in and talk about single touch payroll and all the exciting, well, exciting to you and I anyway, exciting changes for phase 2.
Thanks, Andrew, for that, and Laurie for having us here today. Good morning, everyone. So what I do is I'm a Reckon accredited partner. My background is in training and assessment, and it's always been in the financial services industry. So I'm also a registered BAS agent. So I work with small businesses to help them get the most out of their accounting solution. But what my aim is to actually empower small business owners to do their own work, and rather than outsourcing it. But if people want to outsource it, that's fine as well. So that's my absolute passion. I've worked with lots and lots of really wonderful business owners in lots of varied industries, but I think your industry sounds really exciting. Like, I'd love to work with some of you if that ever happens. But that's enough about me. Let's just bite the bullet and jump in and look at single touch payroll and the changes that we can expect. And as Andrew said, if you've got any questions, just interrupt or throw them in the chat window, and Andrew will keep an eye on that at the same time. So you're probably aware that single touch payroll, we often refer to that now as STP. It started way back in December in 2014, and it was announced as an initiative to streamline tax and superannuation reporting for small business owners. So it became law back in 2016 and took effect from 2017. So the first lot of businesses who onboarded came on board a year later. And so it's been around for a few years now. So what single touch payroll is, it's provided the tax office with the tools to support a range of scenarios. So it not only gave a more streamlined end of financial year approach, they discontinued payment summaries, or you might have called them group certificates. But unbeknown to the ATO at the time they actually began all this, it also gave them the tools to manage the JobKeeper and JobMaker programs at the height of COVID. So because there was the COVID distraction, the ATO are taking a gentle approach with STP reporting, and they haven't been penalising any employers yet. Rather, they've been providing assistance. So saying that though, if the tax office identifies that you need assistance, you probably do need to get onto it. So of the 770,000 small businesses in Australia, there's still about 300,000 that are on board, and now the ATO has begun to reach out to those businesses. So how it works is you must be using an accounting solution to do your STP reporting. And there's lots of software companies out there, Reckon being one of them, who have developed a means of connecting to your ATO portal. So at Reckon, we call that connection GovConnect. So I'll refer to that from time to time, but it's just the connection mechanism. It's a pretty easy solution to onboard with, and Reckon have both desktop and cloud products, and it works with both of those platforms. But regardless of which accounting software that you choose, it's really important that you understand that the older versions of the software, if you're running a version of software that came out in the year 2000 or even 2 or 3 years ago, it won't be compliant now for STP. You need to be on the latest version of your accounting solution, and then you need to keep it updated. So whether we like it or not, that's really where the future of payroll and compliance reporting is going to be. So one of your takeaways for today, if you are using older versions of the software, or you might not even be using any version of the software, or might be using Excel, really don't procrastinate. It's really going to be best for you and your business to onboard now while there's so much support around for you. So people still say, well, what is STP? So really, it's just the process by which the employers report their employees' salaries and wages, their PAYG withholding, their tax, their superannuation information to the tax office each payday using STP-enabled software. So it's part of the ATO's plan to modernise how we do payroll and to move away from the manual time and wages books, and instead use software to streamline the employer's obligations around payroll reporting, but also to provide the ATO with real-time data and improved accuracy. So that's really what you need to take away. It's about visibility and about timeliness. The ATO now have got more visibility than they've ever had before in regards to things like unpaid super and late payments. And as a result of businesses moving towards STP reporting, that information is much more timely. And what they're doing is they're fully intending to use that to better protect the employee entitlements, and they're beginning to take action against employers who are not complying with their payroll obligations. So a not so fun fact, just on 5 years ago, there was $2.85 billion in superannuation that was unpaid. So this was super that was not paid by the employers into the employees' superannuation funds. Now, using STP, the ATO is going to make employers more accountable. And there's certainly been examples in the media where the ATO have been definitely using it. So STP is the biggest change to payroll since the introduction of the superannuation guarantee some 30 years ago. Now, it's worth noting that STP can be reported in advance, but the rule is STP must be reported on or before the payment date. So traditionally what you did was you entered, you calculated your payroll information, you provided a pay slip just because Fair Work says you need to, you paid the employee, and then you paid and report the super and the tax and so on. So there's nothing that's changed here. It's just this process now has a title, and we call that process a pay event. So STP now means that there's an additional process. So as well as processing your payroll, you have to report that pay event to the ATO. So if you do weekly payroll, you'll be reporting your pay event every week. If you do monthly payroll, you'll be reporting that payroll every month, and so on. Now, because it's been around for such a long period of time now, what we're doing is we're now entering into a different stage, and this stage that we're entering into is called stage 2 or phase 2. Now, probably the easiest thing to talk about the difference between phase 1 and phase 2 is tell you what the changes are and what hasn't changed. So the payments that are in scope for STP reporting with the introduction of this second phase, that hasn't changed. So effectively, if you're reporting something through STP now, you're going to be reporting that through phase 2 as well. The information that we're reporting now is the gross wages each period, the tax each period, and any reportable employer superannuation contributions like salary sacrifice, and also just regular super. They're all still going to be happening. The due dates for the STP reports, they're not changing. You still have to report on the pay event date. And at the end of each financial year, we do what's called a finalisation report, and that's not changing either. So nothing has really changed from phase 1 to phase 2, but with phase 2, what is going to happen is the data that we're already providing is going to be broken down into smaller, more detailed data, and it's also going to be used by other government agencies like Commonwealth services such as Centrelink Child Support or Services Australia. So what I mean by broken down into bite-sized pieces, gross payments are going to be split out to include things like overtime and be more specific about allowances and bonuses. And this is because the separation of these amounts is going to give the ATO more visibility on what's ordinary times earnings. So they're going to be able to accurately determine what items are going to attract super, so on. Secondly, I'm not sure whether this will affect your industry. You might not have a lot of back payments, but lump sum payments are now going to include information about what financial year that payment was made to assist with back payment tax calculations. And thirdly, information is going to be sent to the tax office with how an employee is associated with the business, whether they're full-time, whether they're casual, and also a cessation or a release reason when an employee's employment role is going to finish.
Sorry,
Okay,
Sue, I'm not sure if I've lost you on the slides there.
No, she's
you can maybe move forward about 3 slides.
Yep, maybe I have. There we go.
There you go. That's all good.
Excellent.
I'm sort of breaking it down a little bit easier. I normally give a lot more information, but I don't think that's actually required for this group. Okay, so with the phase 2 introduction, I mentioned it's going to have in commencement and service dates. So what happens in our software is our employees have what's called an employee record. It doesn't matter which solution you're using. You put information in about the employee. Now, a lot of that information is already going to the tax office when they do their STP reporting in phase 1, but they're going to be getting more information from the employee records. So what they're now going to be getting is the commencement date and the termination date and the reason why the employment has finished, the cessation reason. And what that's going to do is that automatically gives the tax office the tax information that they need. So there's not going to be any need for tax file number declaration forms anymore. It's going to give them the final figures when somebody leaves. It's going to give them the reason and the date when somebody leaves. And therefore, there's not going to be the need for things like the separation certificate that now we do when an employee wants to receive a government payment after employment. It's also going to help with tax treatment codes. So in some cases, you might have employees who are claiming the tax-free threshold, or this might be a second job for them and they're not claiming the tax-free threshold. When that information changes, that information will be updated in the software rather than filling in a new tax file number declaration, and the ATO will get that information straight away. So instead, there'll be nothing sent into the tax office as well. And at the moment, that's going to be shared with the tax office and Centrelink, which is Services Australia, but it's also going to be shared with other government industries, so such as family child support. So if you are garnishing an employee's wages for child support, that information is going to be sent via the payroll system, via the pay event, STP to the relevant organisation. So at the moment, what happens with child support is the employer, if they are garnishing, has to fill in a report and send that report off with payment to the relevant agency. So,
Susan, just to note, the working holiday maker and seasonal worker is very valid for our industry as well. So that's obviously enabling an easier transition for the government to understand what seasonal workers we have being paid.
Absolutely, and you'll have the ability in your software to determine what type of visa that they are on, because there's a couple of visas that people come out to Australia on, and they're quite valid, and you know they're allowed to work, but then their circumstances might change. So that information, once the employee notifies the employer, that goes straight through to the tax office as well. So I can talk a little bit more detail if anyone has anything more specific on working holiday makers.
I think if the guys want to know any more, yeah, speak up or just put in the chat and we can certainly address it. But yeah, keep going, Susan, it's all good.
Yep, okay, perfectly. And as I mentioned, like I'm giving you a lot of information here now, and we can sort of send you the presentation afterwards if you like, but there's a lot of information on the ATO website, and what they're doing is they're putting in checklists and fact sheets and all sorts of stuff as well. Okay, so what this is all doing, like it seems like a lot of hard work, and it's not really a lot of hard work, it's just doing it a different way. But there's benefits for you as an employer, because what you're going to be doing is reducing your workload by not filling in all these other forms that you have to do. You know, you won't be doing the separation certificates. You won't be sending off the child support reports if that's something you do. There won't be a requirement for the tax file numbers or letters if you've got lump sum E's, and it's giving you more definition of your gross income reporting. And I think what the whole purpose of it is to really make it easier for employers to understand their obligation and have consistency across all employers and the various income types. Your employees are also benefiting as well, because all of their information is now in their MyGov record, which they can easily access. I actually forgot to say for employers, so sometimes an employee doesn't provide the tax the superannuation information for an employer in the timely manner. Let me just say that again. Sometimes the employee doesn't provide the employer with the superannuation information in a timely manner. So what the employer can now do is can access the employee's last super fund from a previous employer, and they can actually run that report and get that information and choose that fund so that they're not missing their obligations to pay into a complying fund. So that's sort of another benefit to the employer as well. The employee will have a MyGov account. All of the information will be in there. They'll be tax ready in a sooner fashion. They will not need to get information to take to Centrelink if they need to get a benefit. And it's going to make their tax time a lot easier as well. They're not going to have to hunt out for group certificates or payment summaries 3 months later if they haven't put their tax in, and it'll all be ready in their portal, ready to go. It makes it their tax agent also has access to that information too. Okay, so a lot of people sort of say, where is my data going? Who's going to have access to it? So basically it's the Australian government departments. At the moment, it's the ATO, but it will also be Services Australia, it will also be child support, will also be, there's also the potential for be used by other government agencies when and if required. So that might be Fair Work Australia and companies like that, or organisations like that. Okay, so if you're not complying with doing STP now, and there might be a very valid reason, you might just have closely held employees, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. You really should be, well, you should be complying now because closely held employees came on board on the 1st of July. Phase 2 was initially meant to start from the 1st of July this year, but with the COVID onset and with the software developers having to refocus on a different program, the ATO has extended that deadline till the 1st of January next year, when STP phase 2 is going to come into place. Now, whilst the 1st of January is the mandated start date, the ATO's got a transitional plan allowing employers and their advisors to embrace this new phase 2 competently. So that's going to take some time. So it doesn't mean that everyone has to cancel Christmas. It's not like the ATO is just going to flip on a switch and expect everyone to start on the 1st of January with their phase 2. They have a transition plan. So different employers are going to come on at different times, and different software is going to come on at different times. But what you can do now is to start reviewing your payroll systems, making sure that your software is configured properly. And if you need to reach out to your software or you want to reach out to me, that's fine. You can feel free to do that. Okay, now that's pretty much single touch payroll phase 2. But before I switch mode, talking about anything else, I just want to talk about closely held employees. So closely held employees had a concession, and that concession has now finished. So what it meant was closely held employees were originally meant to start reporting via STP on the 1st of July 2019, but they were given this extra time to transition, and a bit of flexibility was required here because the salaries and the wages that are paid to closely held employees seem to be more irregular than other employees. So in a nutshell, a closely held employee is someone who's directly related to the business that they're receiving the payments from. It could be mum or dad, family members, they're a director, shareholders, and they have their wages amount calculated once a year, and it's usually only at the time of preparing their personal tax returns, noting that employers didn't have to finalise payroll for closely held employees until that time when their tax return was being prepared by the tax agent, and the tax agent determined what those wages were going to be. But that changed this year. So the concession was only offered to small employers, so those who had less than 20 employees, and it meant that they could actually do this late calculation. But now what's happened is closely held employers still have to report their employees with their regular STP now. So that concession finished, and they now need to be included with your regular payroll. So if you are a small employer, you can report these amounts on or before each pay event, or you can still choose to report that information quarterly, but you can't do it once a year anymore. Larger employees, they've got to apply to the ATO, so they're probably already reporting anyway. Now, there's three possible ways for the closely held employees to report payments made. So the first is to report normally. Just throw them in with your other employees and report as per current and ongoing STP reporting guidelines when you actually report the actual payments. So on or before each pay period, each pay event. Now, 2 and 3, businesses have still got the option to report the information on a quarterly basis by either reporting the employee's actual payments if they've taken actual money on or before each quarter when the business activity statements are due, or by providing a reasonable estimate, which is okay if you don't have the exact quarterly figure. But you've really got to be careful with this one and be aware that you're not underestimating the amounts that you report, because the ATO has got the right to enforce penalties if this is you. So I probably just glossed over that a little bit, but you really need to, if you're going to estimate, you need to consider what you took last year, and your Q1, Q2 and Q3 estimates need to be in line with what it was in the previous year. It's a little bit tricky.
Just a quick question in the chat, which I don't know whether it's a timely to ask you this, so apology if it's not, but Don was just asking around disaster payments and an accurate recording on pay slips of what that should read, like so with the job keeper and that type of thing. Have you got a response to that?
I'm just going to, sorry, I'm just, who's the question from, Laurie? I'll look it up.
Dawn, did you want to ask it in person? Are you there?
Hi, Susan. Sorry, it's Dawn here.
No, hi, Dawn. How are you going?
I wish my bookkeeper was here whilst you're talking. One of the things we're currently doing is payroll for this fortnight just passed, and 5 of the staff have taken the furlough situation and taken the disaster payment. So the question is quite specific to that. We're looking at websites trying to find all sorts of ways to reduce our workload, but make sure the pay slips are moving forward. We're in Canberra, so we're probably in this situation until November. Is there any advice you can offer us as to how it should be recorded, given that it's going up to a single touch now? We'll see it tomorrow.
Okay, so I'm in Victoria, so our payments are different payments. So I'll give you the information that was provided for Victoria, which I imagine would be the same type of information. So if we're providing any subsidies, whether it was JobKeeper, JobMaker or anything in terms of for our employees, we had to include that information on the pay slips.
And how did you record it though?
So we had to pay categories. Yeah, so basically what they're called payroll items. And generally the payroll items are set up as an allowance type, and they're pointing to allowance type other.
Right.
Your bookkeeper would probably understand if you say allowance type and allowance type other. So that information will also go through to the STP so that it can be cross-matched with the ATO.
Yep. So we're listing the regular hours and listing those regular hours that are now being paid by the government, if you like, under this others item.
So, no, so what happens is they still need to have their leave accrual going as if they were working, even if they weren't working. But the hours are just listed as the allowance type, like the amount is just listed as the allowance type.
Yeah, I understood under furlough arrangements, you don't actually get entitlements.
I'm not aware of that. With the allowances that we've all had in Victoria, we've still had to accrue entitlements.
Leave that with me, Dawn. I've probably got some advice that I can give you on that. From what I've heard, and I'm just waiting for it in writing, so as soon as I do, I'll send it through to the members. But the federal government isn't taxable, and but if you're standing them down without leave, they still accrue. If you stand them down without pay, they still accrue leave. So if they are still an employee, which obviously you have to maintain them under the New South Wales Job Saver program, so you still need to accrue their leave with that, but the federal one is not taxable, the state ones are. So I will get some content for you, Dawn, and I'll flick it through to the members.
Great, thank you.
Dawn, I'll just explain one way that you can still accrue leave even if you're not paying somebody, rather than manually adjusting it. You can create again another new payroll item and call it something like pandemic leave accrual or something like that, and have that accruing for every hour worked, even though they're not working. And then you can still put the number of hours in, and that will actually trigger the accrual. So Laurie's got my details. If you want me to actually put that into an email for you with the information, I'm happy to sort of put that in for you.
That'd be great, Susan. Then I can put it into today's newsletter. That'll be awesome.
Okay, yeah. So there's ways in each of the softwares to do that.
Just from a software perspective, I can only speak for Reckon, but we haven't received specific direction from the New South Wales government or the ACT government or even the Victorian government on how that is actually needed to be shown on the pay slip itself. So it's not like, obviously you remember back when we had the job keeper, there were specific requirements around how that was processed in the payroll. When it comes to the state based payments, we haven't received any guidance there.
Yeah, and unfortunately on the websites we haven't found anything. We're actually relying on the UK model using furlough, because pay slips have got to go out today, so we're a little bit struck.
Yeah. So the pay slip just has certain information on it. I'm not sure whether New South Wales has different rulings, but for the Fair Work Australia pay slips, it says it must have the gross pay, the net pay, what it was for. So I would assume that you do need to list it separately on it if it's going towards wages. Okay, I'll try and find some information and send that through. Okay. Laurie, happy for me to continue?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to warn everyone, Leslie will be in control at 11. So if you want to keep going, please do so. I've just got to see this media conference and work out what's happening with education going back to the classroom. So I'll be leaving you at 11, but thank you guys, keep going.
Okay. Okay, so there's not much more to go. Catching up to what do I need to report? Okay, so with the new process, what you need to report is your year-to-date figures up to and including the last quarter. So what's going through to the ATO each pay event is not just the pays, the wages that will pay that pay. It's always a year-to-date figure. So it's not, say your payroll is $10,000 a week for all of your employees. It's not just the 10,000 that's going. The first week it's going to show the total up to 10,000. The next one it's going to show up to 20,000. It's only year-to-date figures. And it's what is going to be shown is the total gross figures for the payments being reported, the same as the W1 field on your activity statements, and the same as your total PAYG withholding, same as your W2, and the ordinary times earnings for your superannuation liability. So if you think that you might not be reporting properly, or if you think that you have to start reporting, there's really not a lot more that you can do except for get your software set up ready to go. And if you aren't reporting, start reporting as in terms of phase 1. Just review your employee records, make sure you've got all the latest information in there as well. It's probably not worth ringing up your software company at the moment. As Andrew said, they're rapidly trying to evaluate their development plans and they'll provide explanations. further along. Make sure you are on the most current version. That is something that you can do now. Reach out to your software provider and just check that you're on the latest version. Most software companies now are putting people on subscription versions, so they're always up to date. And remember that each software company has got their own way of connecting to the ATO. But one of the things that you do need to do is contact the tax office and give a software ID to the tax office that will enable your software provider to submit data on your behalf. Make sure your company information is set up correctly. So by that, I mean, you need to have a look at how you're set up on your ABN lookup and basically copy and paste that information when you're setting up your software ID, because it needs to be letter for letter. And finally, just let your employees know that this is happening and just encourage them to get their own MyGov account if they haven't already, so that they can actually take ownership of their information too. Now, I just want to have a quick chat about superannuation. So in the last budget, there was a change to superannuation, and what happened is the superannuation guarantee increased by 0.5% from 9.5% to 10% as of July this year. So the first pay that you paid in July you had to actually take out 10%, pay 10% super. It doesn't matter if perhaps you pay fortnightly, and one fortnight was in June, related to June, and 1 week was in June and 1 week was in July. Both weeks, because that pay was paid in July, you had to pay 10% super on the earnings. This is the first superannuation increase we've had since the 1st of July 2014. But what's going to happen is from 2021 right through to 2025, there's going to be these 0.5% increases as well. Now, something that was spoken about but didn't happen, and it will happen next year, is there's going to be a further change where they're going to abolish the $450 threshold to receive superannuation obligations. So at the moment, if you've got employees who are under 18 years of age and they're under 18, under 16, I'm just doubting myself now. There's exceptions for, I think it's under 18, that there's no super unless they're doing 30 or more hours a week.
I think it is, Sue. Yeah, off my back of my mind as well.
Just, oh gosh, all these numbers. But if you have an employee, regardless of their age, at the moment, if they're earning less than $450 in a calendar month, you do not need to remit superannuation for that employee for that month. However, if you, unless you have an EBA or something that says that you do, but that means that, let's say you pay weekly and you pay your employee $200 a week. So week 1, no superannuation has been earned. Week 2, no superannuation has been earned. Week 3, they've now earned $600 in that month. You have to start accruing the super, and that pay in the software will actually pick up the pays for the first 2 weeks of the month. And then, so it'll have $60 will have accrued in that 3rd week. And then in the 4th week, when there's another $200, it'll accrue a further $20 a week's superannuation. So at the end of that 4-week period, if it's a 4-week month, $80 will have accrued for super to be remitted. If that same employee at the moment was only earning $100 a week, there would be no super, because they didn't hit the 450 threshold. And that can change from month to month at the moment. So if you've got an employee who earned $400 in July, no super. If they earn $600 in August, there's super, and so on. It just changes per each month. Okay, so just on that little cheerful note about superannuation, I'm just going to hand you back to Andrew, who is just want to talk about Reckon Payroll.
Yeah, thank you, Sue, for obviously that detailed presentation. There's definitely quite a lot happening in the world of ATO, and a lot of important changes coming up next year. But as Sue mentioned, obviously don't stress about it. There's more than enough time, and there'll be deferrals in place to speak to your software provider. If you're not using accounting software, obviously start having a look what is available, and jump on board and become compliant. So obviously here at Reckon, we like to consider ourselves a little bit of a veteran when it does come to single touch payroll. We've got well over 100,000 of our small business clients registered for single touch payroll reporting via a Reckon product. And we've submitted probably around, I think it's at last count, just over 1.2 million transactions to the ATO with a 99.99% success rate. So when single touch payroll became a requirement, many small and medium businesses were on the lookout for a fast, affordable, and really a fuss-free solution to manage their lodgements. And in order to meet that growing demand for that fast and affordable solution, Reckon introduced Reckon One Payroll into the Australian software market. So Reckon One Payroll is a cloud-based, and it's also available on the mobile software solution that allows business owners to easily manage their wages, leave, super, and obviously single touch payroll. Unlike most other payroll solutions, you won't need to pay by the number of employees you have or the number of users that need access to software, saving obviously your business money. Reckon One Payroll is pretty easy to set up, and our clients tell us that it's extremely easy to use and it's user-friendly. And from my experience, obviously talking with my partner channel and business owners, most users seem to have a full understanding of the program in really just a few hours. And of course, we've got our experts such as Susan and our support teams standing by. So obviously we're running out of time. I was going to jump in and have a quick look at the mobile app, but I'm sure a lot of you probably might want to jump off and see the Premier speaking and get the updates before the weekend. But if obviously Sue and myself will just stay on if you've got a couple of questions, we're more than happy to answer those. And I will speak to Laurie for those who aren't using an accounting software payroll product, and to see if she's able to send out a little bit more information around what Reckon offer there, and see if we can do something around a special offer as well.
Yeah, that'd be great,
Thank you.
Andrew. Thank you.
Thank
Sorry,
you
I'm just
again.
taking over from Laurie. She's jumped off to look at the press conference. But yes,
exactly.
we've recorded this session, so it will be available to everyone. There's a lot of people who couldn't make it this morning, but we always pop the sessions on the YouTube channel, so people check in a bit later in the day and catch up. So, but yeah, email through what you've got, and an offer will be fantastic, and we'll certainly distribute it through to our membership.
Definitely, yeah, because we're really excited about our payroll app that we've just released into the market. So that obviously works on Android, Apple,
fantastic,
or iPod, and that's free to use as well.
Wonderful.
For a real simple solution.
Exactly what we need.
Exactly, with all the changes happening.
Yeah.
So yeah, happy to answer any other questions, myself from a software side or Sue from a compliance side. But otherwise, yeah, we'll send through all of our details to Laurie so you can get that out to all of your members, and yeah, we'll keep in touch.
Fantastic. Has anyone got a question for Andrew or Susan before they sign off? Before we sign off, or are we good? I think we're good.
Thanks everyone for listening today. Good luck with everything and stay safe.
Thanks, Susan. Thanks, Andrew. And thanks
so
everyone
much,
for joining us. Oh, sorry, Dawn's got a question. Hi, Dawn.
No, I'm just saying goodbye.
Oh, no. Oh,
just saying bye.
Say bye. Cheers.
Putting my face up so I can say thank you.
Lovely.
Thanks, Dawn.
Have a good one. See you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thanks, Nicole.